Dear people of Amazonia, fellow brave warriors of our liberation movement, accept liberation greetings from me, Comrade John Akuro, this 31st day, 31st, this is the 31st of August, and the year is 2025. I'm sure I'm making no error again because the last time, on the last video, I said 2022 when I intended to say 2025. I'm delighted to come to us this late evening on this Sunday in, I mean, in North America. It's already early morning in Amazonia because I know that's already gone past midnight, even getting towards 1 a.m. My dear people, I'm coming here this evening for us to have a moment of communion around a message that I broadcast on this platform earlier in the day. That's just about 3 hours ago. This was a video recording of the late Mola Njoli Tumbe. Mola Njoli Tumbe is one of the greatest heroes of all times of the southern Cameroons. And I want each and every one of us to always recognize that. You know, Mola Njoli Tumbe might not have held even a master's degree. I have never found taken time to really know how far he went in his education. He was not a PhD holder. He was not a university professor. But the mark that Molan Jolly Tumbe left on the quest of the people of the Southern Cameroons for freedom is unparalleled. The knowledge the late venerated Molan Jolly Tumbe shared, the know-how he demonstrated of the situation of the Southern Cameroons, of the functioning of international affairs, will leave even some of those who call themselves the greatest professors of political science or sciences totally dumbfounded. When you listen to the likes of Professor Elvis Ngole Ngole, you listen to all others who say they are professors, they are doctors, you listen to Victor Julius Ngo and others, and you come and listen to Molan Jolly Tumbe, you get the difference. You understand when a man is talking and when boys are talking. Molan Jolly Tumbe's wisdom can only be classified as what we call wisdom of the ancients. In a little while, I will go back to that message of his. I broadcast it as is. That was an interview that the late Molan Jolly Tumbe granted to CRTV after the passage of Mr. Paul Biya in Boya. That was in early 2011 when he went there to celebrate what he called 50 years of reunification. There were a number of symposiums and there was a colloquium organized for people to talk about what happened in 1961, for people to debate about the fallouts are negative, and the benefits. The benefits, of course, are benefits of what happened in 1961. And there were several panels, but the one panel where Molan Jolly Tumbe sat was a panel he spent time educating those who called themselves university professors. At the end of it all, he had George Kilong, a fine journalist at the time. I wonder if he's still fine right now. He's my brother and friend. We live together in the same room with another very refined journalist, Richard Kwankometa of Cameroon Tribune, or of Sopekan. And we were together in Asmark. I know what I'm talking about. And we worked together on Cameroon Calling with, of course, Samson Webster Ngango. We worked together. We fought several media battles together, too often in the interest of the people of the Southern Cameroons. Of course, we even locked up a couple of times together So in this interview, or in that interview that you followed, if you already followed, if you haven't, go back. It was broadcast on the 31st of August 2025, meaning today, if you're in the Western Hemisphere or you're in North America, yesterday, just yesterday, if you are in West Africa or in other time zones out of the Eastern Daylight Time. So, in that interview, you get wisdom, unmitigated wisdom. You get to understand the foundations of the ongoing conflict between the peoples of the former UN Trust territory of British Southern Cameroons and those of La République du Cameroun that acquired independence on January 1, 1960. So before I delve into that, because I came here to highlight three things, or I am here to highlight three things from that discussion that we need to understand, because those three things are fundamental to the understanding as to why we are locked in this struggle, the benefits of the struggle. Because when I still go around, I was out in Minnesota the past 2 days. Last week, I was in other parts of the United States where I met other Southern Cameroonians. And in conversations and discussions, I realized there are still some people who have still not understood the fundamental benefits of self-determination, what we are seeking. And that interview by Molan Jolly to be highlights a lot of it, but there is much more to it that may be practically explained, will make you understand why you absolutely need to be part of this liberation movement. But before I get to that, I want to go on to something that I've continued having a lot of questions about, and that will be really, really brief. That something is the lockdown that I brought on this platform in my last outing, which I relayed as coming from ground zero, which is still in discussion, but from what I've interacted with a lot of stakeholders in this liberation movement, I've found it's definitely going to be confirmed that a lockdown will be operated in the Southern Cameroons from September 8 all the way to October 16. That's what I got. September 8 to October 16, with the likelihood of extending depending on what happens in the Republic of Cameroon after October 12th. And then a lot of questions have come up, because that announcement also points out that Saturdays and Sundays will be free. So which means Monday all the way to Friday, Monday all the way to Friday, then Saturdays and Sunday will be allowed for people to go out there and grab something. Now the first question that came to me was, what if the people that we don't want to come around disturbing people that political campaigns always come and hold those campaigns on those Saturdays and Sundays? What do we do? This is a question I'll throw, especially to our self-defense volunteers, our freedom fighters, those who make up the Amazonian Army for Freedom on ground zero. How is that going to be handled? That's number one. But number two, another one came out. This is a question of also sent in writing. Mr. Mba, what happened if the 2 days during ghost towns La République du Cameroun plans the election on any of those 2 days? And my answer to it was, there is a powerhouse working on rapid response, because that's exactly what I was told on ground zero, and that's what is also operational in the diaspora, where you have, the active diplomatic arm and mobilization arm of our liberation movement. We said there is a powerhouse working on that will be working throughout this moment on rapid response. But again, the other one that said the election will be held on a Sunday, and that Sunday is October 12th. So how are you going to handle that? But of course, the answer is simple. Nobody needs to tell you that Saturday the 11th and Sunday the 12th of October would definitely not be free days. Those will be lockdown days. Write that down if you do not write it. Saturday the 11th of October and Sunday the 12th of October will definitely be lockdown days. And I know that those who send this out will find time themselves to do videos and audios to explain this to you. Because on Saturday 11th, if that day is free, that's the day that ambulant voters, that is chartered voters, will be carted out in trucks, in chartered cars and all whatnot to various villages where they will go to vote in the name of the people of Ambazonia who have refused to vote, who have refused to be part of a foreign election. Of course, Sunday is a day that they expect their people to move to the polls. So this Saturday 11th of October, Sunday 12th of October are automatically lockdown days, which means when you're planning your movements, planning how to stock your homes, planning how to make sure you have enough supplies, you plan that week leading to the 11th and 12th of October, there will not be a single day that you'll be allowed to go out there in Ambazonia, because you'll be totally ghosted all over Ambazonia to send another strong message to the rest of the world that we are not part of La République du Cameroon's political fabric. That is why all the struggles that they are getting over there, honestly, our people are not involved, because that election is a known affair to our people. That election, to us, it does not exist. There's not even an election. It's not an election. It's a selection. That's in case it really does happen. So it doesn't concern us. It's the business of La République du Cameroon. And another thing that came to the fore was this visit by the French ambassador to the Unity Palace of La République du Cameroon, where Biya received Thierry Marchand. I'll come to talk about that in my next broadcast, which will be this Monday, September 1. We will take a careful look at it and remind the Ngaputs in our midst who call themselves funds, those who call themselves political elite, those who call themselves intellectuals and all whatnot, and even our clergy, who call them out for their absolute stupidity. Demonstrate to them that for Paul Biya, they are nincompoops. They mean nothing. That's why he can't show up to talk to them, but will show up to talk to a foreign dignitary. That's why he can't even honor his people by standing out himself to announce that he wants to be candidate again for election. They are mere mortals, and he is a god. Therefore, a god doesn't waste his time coming out there to present himself as if he's honoring mere mortals, as if he's honoring idiots, fools, who only have to do his will even just at the sight of his picture. That's what it is. So, folks, that's it. Let us now delve into the fundamental issues that you must have taken note of in that interview by Molanjoli Tumbe. There are a couple of things that Molanjoli Tumbe talked about, and those things are very, very fundamental to this liberation movement, because he debunks the argument by some who claim that the people of the southern Cameroons, by the vote of the February 11, 1961, automatically became part of La République du Cameroon. You see, there is one clear thing he says there. Because perhaps if I come to referendum, I should go back to self-determination, of course, which is something also very clear that we will talk about, because that's something, like I say, that's something that is too important and too fundamental to this liberation movement that people have not paid sufficient attention to, and I'll come back to explain exactly what it means. You see it seem as banal, but it is very important. What is a plebiscite? What is a plebiscite? What is the role of a plebiscite? The Oxford Dictionary, there's a definition from the Oxford Dictionary, says plebiscite is a direct vote of all the members of an electorate on an important public question such as a change in constitution. The administration will hold a plebiscite for the approval of constitutional reforms. This is something that you need to get further. Because if you go to to plebiscite and try to look for what is called the real meaning of a plebiscite, you will get more detailed information. That a plebiscite, the word plebiscite refers to a direct vote by the entire electorate of a country or district to express an opinion. To express an opinion. Go search that. Go to Google, type plebiscite real meaning in English. You will get this information I'm giving you. The word plebiscite refers to a direct vote by the entire electorate of a country or district to express an opinion for or against a specific proposal. It is often used to determine the status of a territory or to approve a radical change in government, such as a new constitution or ruler. Now, plebiscite can be advisory or non-binding. Did you hear that? Plebiscite can be advisory or non-binding, meaning the government is not legally required to act on the result of a plebiscite. So, meaning an entity is not legally required to act on the result of a plebiscite. The word also has historically been associated with authoritarian regimes seeking to legitimize their rule, such as Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself emperor. So you see, a plebiscite is a kind of consultation with the people to express an opinion, which means, therefore, after they have expressed that opinion, it is now left on the governing entities to act on that opinion. It doesn't mean that by that vote, a decision has been taken. So therefore, the United Nations required the government of the Southern Cameroons, led by John Good Foncha at the time, to consult with the people regarding the position of the United Nations at the time, that upon achieving independence, the power, the country that had a mandate to govern this territory and prepare it for independence on behalf of the United Nations, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, had expressed an opinion to the United Nations that the territory of Southern Cameroons, if allowed to be self-governing, might not have the required resources to self-sustain. Reason: they will require the territory to join with either Cameroon, with either Nigeria, that was already independent in 1960, 1st October 1960, or with La République du Cameroun, since France expressed the interest, that was already independent on the 1st of January 1960. This was because the United Kingdom had wanted to join both Southern Cameroons and Northern Cameroons, British Southern Cameroons and British Northern Cameroons, into Nigeria. It made things easier for them. They feared that if the British Southern Cameroons, as well as the British Northern Cameroons, were allowed to be self-governing, they could depend on the British taxpayers' money for their sustenance. So this position was like to cause them to accept to align with Nigeria, which would have made things easy for the British. And so therefore, when there was resistance, they now went for this option of, okay, do a plebiscite and determine where the people will go upon, not just where they will go, upon achieving independence. So as Mola Jolly Tumbe expressed in that interview, at the plebiscite, when the plebiscite was held, the people expressed the opinion, the desire to join La République du Cameroun upon achieving independence. Listen, to join with La République du Cameroun upon achieving independence. And Mola Jolly Tumbe expresses this as being the bride accepting the proposal of one of the two suitors. And the two suitors were Nigeria, and Cameroon, La République du Cameroon. And so when a bride accepts the proposal of a suitor, that doesn't amount to marriage immediately. That means that the suitor will now have the go ahead to move on with finalizing arrangements for a union. Do you understand that? Finalizing the arrangement for a union. And as Molanjoli Tumbe carefully expresses, who therefore were the parents of the southern Cameroon, to whom either of these suitors will go meet to finalize marital arrangements? The United Nations. That is why at the end of this, as Molanjoli Tumbe quotes the regulations, La République du Cameroon ought to settle down with the southern Cameroons. Delegations sent back to the United Nations, where they would have entered into a treaty of union to cement an agreement on the kind of union that ought to exist. Because, as Molanjoli Tumbe explains, Nigeria offered to make the southern Cameroons a self-governing entity within the Nigerian Federation like all the other existing regions, which means for southern Cameroonians, you are going to be lost inside as one of the states in Nigeria, like the northern Cameroons disappear inside with two states, the Adamawa and another one. And then the Republic of Cameroon proposed, no, we are not just going to make you another of our regions, another of our provinces, because at the time, La République du Cameroon already had 5 provinces. You had the north, the center south, the littoral, the west, and the east region. Those were the provinces of La République du Cameroon. 5. The North Province, Province du Nord, which was made up of the entities today known as the Adamawa, the North, and the Far North. That was what it was, Province du Nord. La République had Center South, middle of the center region today and the south region. That was Province du Centre Sud. It was called the Centre Sud. And then they also had the East Province de l'Est. They had the West Province de l'Ouest. And they had the Littoral, la Province du Littoral. So there were 5 provinces. And so La République du Cameroon told the people of the southern Cameroons that when you come in, you are not going to be one of the provinces among those 5 provinces. We are getting with you into a union of 2 entities equal in status. So you see, the proposal from La République du Cameroon seemed more flattering. I guess that a lot of our people have not taken time to look at it through this lens. I would have made this broadcast and then played Molanjoli Tumbe and be stopping and saying this, but I decided to rebroadcast his interview as is, and then I could refer you to it. When you listen to this analysis, you go back and listen to him again all the way to the end, and you will be able to appreciate the level of intelligence, the level of wisdom in our father, the late venerated Molanjoli Tumbe. He wasn't a university professor, but his mastery of how public international law should be explained, I say and I reiterate, is simply unparalleled. So La République du Cameroon offered therefore a union of 2 states, 2 entities, equal in status. Simply put, that is why, after October 1, 1961, the country known as La République du Cameroon ceased to exist and became known as the Federated State of East Cameroon. And the country known as Southern Cameroon ceased to exist and became known as the Federated State of West Cameroon. And the 2 entities formed a new country known as the Federal Republic of Cameroon. This, according to the explanation from Molanjoli Tumbe, which is the right thing that should have happened, had to be materialized at the United Nations within the framework of a treaty of union consecrating this agreement, because the United Nations has to be the arbiter. This did not happen. And to reiterate to you, among all those who come, those talking heads, Elvis Ngole, Victor Julius Ngo, all the others, another Ngaput calling himself Ashunyenchi and others claiming to be all knowing about international public law, about law, can explain is that because this treaty of union was never entered into, did not exist, the United Nations itself had never recognized that union. You want to ask me how? Of course. That is why in 2010, when La République du Cameroun was celebrating 50 years of its independence, the United Nations delegation showed up. This is the United Nations delegation. They showed up in 2010 when La République du Cameroun was celebrating 50 years of its independence. And this is a present. This is a gift they offered to Paul Biya at the Unity Palace of La République du Cameroun. They did not just offer it sealed, they unveiled it because they were trying to pass a message. They were passing across a sound message, both to the people of the Southern Cameroons and the people of La République du Cameroon, that at the level of the United Nations, they still recognize these two as separate entities. That's why they presented two maps. One map, that's the one you see held there in the hands by the gentleman standing there in black suit. That is the map of the Southern Cameroons, with clearly recognized international boundaries. And the other map standing is the map of La République du Cameroun, with its clearly recognized international boundary. If the United Nations recognized that these two entities had come together to form one country, there would have been a third present. That third present would have been a map, therefore, being the current of La République du Cameroun, of the so-called La République du Cameroun, incorporating the state of Southern Cameroons in it. But that is not what was presented here. This picture is before you. The video is there. And that's why when George Ewane Ngide, at the time presidential reporter, reporting on this event, pointed out that those two maps, one is the map of the Southern Cameroons and the other the map of La République du Cameroun. He was sanctioned. He received a query and was asked to immediately withdraw that report from circulation. And during the rebroadcast of the newscast on which that report was presented, that particular report no longer featured. My dear people of Ambazonia, if you believe with me, I will tell you that a picture, one picture, is more than 10,000 words. This should be able to tell you a thing. This picture is volumes upon volumes of books put together, telling the story of the Southern Cameroons. So at the United Nations, they didn't do this to any other country that was celebrating its independence. They didn't go to offer them present of the maps of the countries. Check out. Across Africa, too many countries celebrated 50 years of their independence in 2010 and in 2011. Some in 2009. Show me anyone where a United Nations delegation went there and offered them even just a map of their country, even just one map. In this case, it was not by error, it was by design. And the message was clear. My people of Ambazonia. And then the question that arises, you say now that the United Nations knows about this, why did they not act? That is a story for another day. But the onus is on you and me to pick the clue from here and fight strongly for what we believe in. So that was message number one from that conversation, from that interview with Molan Jolly Tube. This careful explanation, that you hear it. La République du Cameroon knowing what they wanted to do. That's why when the Southern Cameroons got into this union with La République du Cameroon, they increased the number of provinces from 5 to 7. They now said there were 5 provinces in La République du Cameroon and 2 provinces in Southern Cameroons. But the Southern Cameroons did not have 2 provinces. We didn't have 2 divisions. We had 4 divisions. There was the Boya division, the Kumba division, Fako, and another. So there were 4. There were 2 in the grass field, 2 in the forest zone. But they carefully did this because they knew they were going to try to use these artificial lines created to create 2 provinces to try and fragment us. And they looked at it carefully and looked at the sociological compositions of the provinces in La République du Cameroon adjoining the Southern Cameroons. So they said the people of the forest zone and the people of the littoral appear to have a lot in common because of the forest zone. Okay, there's that thing sour. Oh, they can actually identify or not. Then the people of the grass field, oh, and those, the Bamil people, they have certain things in common. So we can easily try to make them feel more comfortable but with the others. That is why they made sure that there was never a good road network linking what they call the northwest and the southwest. On the contrary, they made sure we had extremely passable roads linking what they call the southwest to the littoral, and then link what they call the northwest to the west. And so for me to leave Bamenda and go to Boya, I have to pass through the west, go and pass through the littoral before entering Boya. I can't just leave my native Batibo, travel less than 1 hour 30 minutes, get to Manfe, and continue from there to Kumba. That's why, despite all the sing-song, the Kumba-Manfe highway is not fully tied until today. That's why, despite all the sing-song, they made sure to avoid anything that would link these 2 parts. Because the purpose and the intention was clear. Divide, antagonize, create artificial political hatred so that they will bury into the minds of Ngaputs like Mbelamoki Charles, Peter Mafani Musonge. So that Mbelamoki Charles will say, somebody's knee is on the neck of the Southwest. And that knee, according to him, is not the knee of the Bulu Ekambeti who killed Sonara when and buried Sonara in Limbe, in Kribi. Not the knee of the Bulu Ekambetis who killed the construction of the Limbe deep sea port project to go and construct another one in Kribi. It's not the knee of the people who preferred to arrest Ferdinand and detain him and give him a life jail term rather than sit and watch him build a shipyard project in Limbe. That's not the knee Belamoki says is on the throat or on the neck of the Southwest people. He says it's the knee of the other people, the Graf people who are suffering like him under the weight of the Republic of Cameroon, and describes them as the people we don't like. That's exactly what the Republic of Cameroon had been fighting to achieve. That's exactly the kind of narrative they want to put in the mouth of all of us. But this is Molan Jolly Tumbe from the same Bakwere land. Like that nincompoop called Belamoki Charles. Like that lost soul called Peter Mafani Musonge. All of those people, viciously giving you this unmitigated truth. Great minds, great souls, are not those that are the most educated. Are those of those people who prefer integrity over stupid gain, who prefer integrity over lasciviousness, who prefer integrity over sitting down to eat the crumbs. The late Molan Jolly Tumbe, when we met in Maryland in 2017 and went to Lanham to have a discussion on the Southern Cameroons television of Dexter Brains, I recall his words very clearly. He told me, Mbakuro, my son, when you people are fighting this thing, do not always fight to put my people ahead, because my people have been manipulated a lot and it's easy to manipulate them. Always look at people based on their integrity, not based on where they are coming from, thinking that because they come from the place, that means they will cosplay from that place to follow. It will not work. We were together with him in the presence also of the late Justice Ebon. We were three of us on that set. I can't forget that moment. It was a moment of great communion where I understood the depth of Molan Joel Itumbe's wisdom that you experienced in that interview. You heard George and Samson ask him all kinds of tricky questions, oh no, but you heard past wisdom. He was very unflattering. He stood by what he knew and by what he believed in. That's it. The next and most important thing that Molan Joel Itumbe talked about was the need for the people of the southern Cameroons to not settle for less than they deserve, because they will end up with less than they settled for. That is very fundamental. Each time we have done that, the result is clear. Today they are coming to fool you, to tell you and I, oh, let's go to a certain election. They tell you, oh, Akerimuna, oh, they are saying, oh, Joshua Osi, oh, this and that. Right now, all of them are busy fighting to become what? All of them are busy fighting for this election, not because they are hoping that they are going to win anything, but because the French have told them that at the end of the day, when they would have made Paul Biya the winner, they will announce that they are creating a certain position of vice president of the republic. And they will give it to any of them who will become second at the election. That is the next level of manipulation. My dear people of Amazonia, that will be settling once more for less than we deserve. And the logical truth is that we will end up with less than we settled for. Know this. Hear this.
Et qui va être réactivé sous le contrôle de la France, par le contrôle de la France. Il y aura également.
No, that's not what I intended to share. But all the same, let's fire on. So the one last thing, therefore, that I want to talk about here is self-determination. And this is very important for me. Self-determination refers to a person's ability to make choices and manage their own life. Self-determination refers to a person's ability to make choices and manage their own life. Being self-determined means that you feel in greater control as opposed to being non-self-determined, which means or which can leave you feeling that others control your life. What's the situation today? La République du Cameroon from Yaoundé controls our lives 100%. But that is not what was offered in 1961. What was offered in 1961 was that we were going to be two separate states coming together in a union of two entities equal in status, and we will be doing our own things, as Molan Joel Itumbe explained. They will be doing their own things the way they were doing before, and we will only meet at the level of the federal government. That's not what we're experiencing today. And that's why today we are fighting to get them out of our territory so that we should determine our lives. I will come back in my second broadcast of this Monday, September 1, to talk elaborately to us about this concept of self-determination, which will make us understand fundamentally why we need to fight tooth and nail to make sure we secure that which is ours, to make sure we secure this wonderful future for generations upon generations of Southern Cameroonians to come. I'd like to end here because it was not my intention to make this communication long. We're getting to 40 minutes. Let me end here so that I will come back on this particular aspect because it's equally very important, and I want everyone to get a careful grasp of what we will be talking about. So thank you very much for your very kind attention. Have a nice time and make sure you share this video. To God be the glory.